uncertain for the entire league in general, but you're a free agent for the first time. Have you thought about what free agency might look like for you if you'd like to be back?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a restricted free agent, so I think that changes things a little bit, but I've loved my years here in Indiana. So obviously with a lot of uncertainty, you don't know what's to come, but I've built a life here, and I love this franchise. I love the people. I love the fans, so we'll see what comes.
Whoa, this one's absolutely crazy. Lexie Hull just dropped a bombshell that's sending Indiana Fever fans into total shock. She's officially parting ways with the team. Yes, the very same Lexie who stood beside Caitlin Clark through every twist and storm of their rookie journey. And now she's gone. Fans are losing their minds over it. And honestly, who can blame them? What on earth went sideways here? And more importantly, what kind of ripple effect will this have on Caitlin and the rest of the Fever lineup? Before we break it all down, what's your gut reaction? Do you think she made the right move? Because let's be honest, this one really hurts. Lexie Natasha took to Twitter, expressing immense pride and appreciation for everything this team fought through. Have you felt those same emotions in the last few days? How do you even balance that pride with the heartbreak of a painful season finale? Losing always stings, and most seasons don't end with a fairy tale. Still, when you look back on everything this group achieved under pressure, it's hard not to feel proud. See, Lexie Hull wasn't just another name on the roster. She was a real heartbeat of this squad. She was one of the rare players who kept grinding with raw determination even when the entire season went off the rails. We're talking about someone who dove across the hardwood, chased every single loose ball, and did all those gritty, thankless little things that never make the highlight reels but win the crowd's respect. Now here's where it gets real. Her contract situation was already hanging by a thread. Lexie entered free agency as a restricted player, meaning Indiana technically had the power to retain her by matching outside offers. But the way she's been speaking lately, it sounds less like a negotiation and more like a goodbye. When a player keeps dropping words like uncertainty and we'll see what happens, you don't need a translator. That's classic athlete language for, I'm already halfway out the door. When asked about it, Lexie kept things classy but telling. She admitted free agency felt unpredictable, but she emphasized how much she's loved her time in Indiana. The city, the fans, the organization, all of it. Still, the tone in her voice said it all. There's love for the franchise, but also an acceptance that her future might be taking a different turn. All right, Elliot, let's roll the tape back for a second, because Lexie's exit didn't just appear out of nowhere. The Fever's season, to put it gently, was an absolute train wreck from start to finish. Between brutal injuries, head-scratching lineup rotations, and the nonstop circus surrounding Caitlin Clark, it's honestly a miracle this team didn't crumble completely by mid-June. Through all that chaos, Lexie was one of the few steady forces holding things together. Whether she started, came off the bench, or got tossed into an awkward position she wasn't meant for, she still showed up, gave effort, and played with heart every single night. And then came that interview.
You could practically feel the fatigue in her words, that mix of disappointment, quiet frustration, and the unmistakable energy of someone mentally done with the situation. She said all the right things, that she loved Indiana, loved the people, loved the fans. But notice what she didn't say. Not a single word about loving what's going on inside the franchise. That silence screamed louder than any headline ever could when she mentioned, "I've built a life here." That wasn't a promise to stay. It was a carefully wrapped goodbye, a graceful farewell disguised as gratitude. Lexie's smart. She knows exactly how to exit without lighting any fires behind her. And the timing, that's no coincidence. The Fever are walking into one of their most unstable off-seasons ever, especially with Caitlin Clark now battling through recovery from injury. The chaos doesn't stop there. The CBA negotiations are reportedly crumbling. Rumors are heating up about a possible 2026 league lockout. And now Lexie, one of Caitlin Clark's most loyal teammates, is walking away from it all. If that's not a giant red flag waving in plain sight, then honestly, I don't know what is. The warning signs couldn't be any clearer. When asked about how she's handling it, Lexie gave a tired little laugh and said she's actually excited to sit down and do absolutely nothing for a while. And honestly, that says a lot. The season clearly took a toll, physically, mentally, emotionally. Reflecting on it, she explained how her role changed constantly throughout the year. Some nights she started, other nights she came off the bench, sometimes she was guarding the toughest players, and sometimes she had to focus on offense or energy plays. Through all of it, she just tried to show up as her best self, flexible, ready, and willing to do whatever the team needed. That adaptability, she said, became one of her biggest strengths. It wasn't easy, but it taught her how to grow her game in ways she never expected. Still, you could sense the exhaustion underneath her words. Every single player on that Fever roster was challenged this season, and Lexie, maybe more than anyone, felt the full weight of it. That Lexie's interview didn't just sound emotional, it exposed something much deeper. You could tell she's simply exhausted by the constant chaos surrounding this team. She spoke about having to adapt to new roles night after night, how the rotations kept shifting, and how players were expected to show up and perform no matter how unpredictable things got. In plain English, there was absolutely zero stability. Every game felt like walking into a new experiment, and she wasn't wrong. Coach Stephanie White spent most of the season juggling lineups like she was running a chemistry test, swapping players, rotating roles, and searching for combinations that might somehow click. One night Lexie was locking down elite wings, the next she was a spot-up shooter, and then suddenly, she became the defensive anchor in heavy switch coverage. That's an insane amount of pressure to dump on one player, especially without rhythm, structure, or a clear identity on the court. Moving forward, Lexie reflected on how every challenge the Fever faced, the endless injuries, the lineup chaos, the awkward pairings that hadn't even practiced together,
shaped their season in unforgettable ways. She said there wasn't one particular game that stood out, because every night felt like a new battle. And here's the thing, despite all of that, she still handled it with professionalism and grace. Even her calm comments about adapting and being flexible weren't generic athlete talk. That was Lexie's subtle, classy way of saying, I kept quiet, did my job, and played through the mess. And then comes the moment that really changes everything. The part where Lexie casually mentions being excited about joining Unrivaled. Yeah, she's not heading home to relax on the couch or take a break from basketball. She's diving straight into the brand new off-season league created and led by Nafisa Collier and Brianna Stewart, two powerhouse names rewriting the future of women's hoops. And that, my friends, says it all. Players aren't blindly trusting the WNBA system anymore. They're looking for control, visibility, and fair compensation, things the league still struggles to deliver. Lexie's decision to join Unrivaled isn't just about basketball. It's about stability and self-preservation. She knows a potential 2026 lockout could throw everything into chaos. So instead of waiting around, she's investing her time and energy into something she believes actually has a future. Her move also quietly reveals a lot about her loyalty. Notice this, Lexie never once said a bad word about Caitlin Clark. In fact, when she spoke about her, you could hear genuine emotion in her voice. She said it was heartbreaking watching Caitlin fight through injuries and missed chances to compete, and you could feel the respect between them. But here's the key. She didn't say, I'm staying to help her bounce back. Instead, she said she was proud of how she continued to show up. That's not bitterness. That's a graceful farewell wrapped in kindness. And here's where things get really interesting. If someone like Lexie Hull, one of the most upbeat, selfless, and team-first players in the entire league, decides to walk away, that tells you the morale inside Indiana is dangerously low. Because Lexie isn't the type to quit when things get tough. So if she's leaving now, something behind the scenes is seriously broken. She said it herself in that same interview. Her greatest strength has always been her competitiveness and her unshakable will to win. So, if someone like Lexie Hull is walking away, it's not because she's afraid of the grind. It's because she's exhausted. Exhausted from the uncertainty, the constant instability, and maybe even the feeling of being invisible on a team where one player absorbs every ounce of media attention. And let's get one thing straight. That's not Caitlin Clark's fault. It's just the brutal truth of how the system works right now. The spotlight only has room for one name. When Caitlin sneezes, it's a trending topic. When Lexie throws herself across the floor for the 10th hustle play in a row, silence. No highlight, no headline, no credit. And after a while, that kind of invisibility wears on anyone. Eventually, you start thinking, maybe I deserve to go somewhere I'm actually valued. Then came the fan reaction, and it was pure chaos online. The moment this story broke, social media exploded. Some fans were heartbroken, calling it the end of an era, while others brushed it off with a cold, "It's business. She'll be fine." But underneath all the noise, one truth kept echoing. This hits Caitlin Clark the hardest.
Because here's the reality. Caitlin's inner circle in Indiana was already small. Lexie wasn't just another teammate. She was one of the few genuine friends Caitlin had in that locker room. They practiced together, shared media duties, and were often the last two smiling faces after brutal losses. Now, with Lexie gone, Caitlin walks into next season surrounded by fewer people she truly trusts. And don't overlook the timing. The CBA negotiations are hanging by a thread, and Lexie's comments about uncertainty weren't casual filler, they were calculated. That was her quietly acknowledging what every player in the league is thinking right now. No one knows what the future looks like. Not the contracts, not the pay scale, not even the leadership. Everyone's waiting for answers, and Lexie simply decided she's done waiting to SO while some fans are acting shocked like this came out of nowhere. The truth is, Lexie Hull probably saw this storm building months ago. She's been living in the same chaos as everyone else, watching it unfold game after game. And as a restricted free agent, she likely made up her mind early. If things didn't drastically improve, she was gone. She even talked openly about wanting to grow offensively. And that's a big deal, because if we're being honest, one of the most common knocks on her in Indiana was her inconsistency on the offensive end. Defensively, she was rock solid, but her shot rhythm, spacing, and role were constantly changing, which made it almost impossible to find her groove. It's hard to be consistent when your responsibilities shift every other week. Why heading to unrivaled. Lexie gets exactly what she's been missing: more touches, more offensive freedom, and a faster style of play that fits her natural game like a glove. And honestly, good for her. It's refreshing to see a player grab the steering wheel of their own career instead of waiting around for a front office that's clearly lost in its own confusion. But now, let's talk about what this actually means for Indiana. It's simple. The Fever just lost one of their most important glue players. You can always replace scorers. You can sign shooters. But you can't easily replace the player who defends every possession, dives on the floor, hustles without complaint, and holds the team's energy together when everything's falling apart. Caitlin Clark is still the undeniable face of the franchise. But after Lexie's exit, she's now surrounded by even more uncertainty. Who's going to lock down the perimeter with the same relentless fire Lexie
brought? Who's going to be that steady, gritty presence when the team collapses mid-game? And yes, there were plenty of those moments last season. The Fever didn't just lose a role player. They lost the heartbeat of their rotation. And that kind of loss hits a locker room way deeper than the stat sheet can ever show. And before anyone jumps in saying, "Relax, they'll just draft someone new," let's get one thing straight. You can't draft chemistry. You can't build trust overnight. That kind of connection takes months, sometimes years, to form. And right now, Indiana looks less like a team and more like a revolving door. Players walking in and out while management pretends everything's fine. The real sting here lies in the irony. Lexie said she was proud of how the team fought for the players who couldn't be on the court, and that line hits hard. Because for a big part of the season, that player was Caitlin Clark. And now, one of the few who fought for her, defended her, and kept things together, won't be there next year. It's poetic, but in the worst possible way. For the first time in years, Fever fans actually had a core they could believe in. Caitlin, Lexie, Aaliyah Boston, and a handful of others who looked like the future. But before that foundation even had a chance to solidify, it's already cracking. If the front office doesn't get serious and make real adjustments fast, this franchise risks becoming exactly what it's been trying to avoid: a chaotic, one-player spectacle. And that's the last thing a rebuilding team with credibility issues can afford. So here's the reality check. Lexie Hull leaving isn't just a casual roster shuffle. It's a massive red flag waving in front of everyone's face, a clear sign of how unstable things truly are behind the scenes in Indiana. And that leads us to the question nobody wants to say out loud. What happens to Caitlin Clark now? Because make no mistake, this move hits her harder than anyone. Lexie wasn't just a teammate. She was one of the few people in that locker room who genuinely understood her. She didn't compete for the spotlight or play politics. She kept the atmosphere calm when everything else was unraveling. You could feel the chemistry between them. Not loud, not viral, but steady. the kind of bond that anchors a team during the worst storms. And now that anchor is gone, which means next season, Caitlin Clark walks into an even lonelier locker room, one that feels just a little colder and a whole lot less stable. When Caitlin Clark was swarmed by double teams, it was usually Lexie Hull cutting through the chaos to give her an escape. When reporters crowded around after a brutal loss, Lexie was right there beside her. No grand speeches, no cameras, just quiet, steady support. And that kind of bond, it matters more than any box score or highlight reel ever could. Now that crucial safety net is gone, and Caitlin stepping into her second professional year, the one where the league expects her to do everything. Lead, score, defend, face the media, keep composure, and somehow handle the weight of an entire basketball world watching her every single move. That's already a mountain of pressure for any athlete.
Let alone a 23-year-old still finding her footing. Add to that the loss of her closest teammate, and yeah, that's tough, even for someone as mentally sharp as Caitlin. But here's the twist. This might be the exact breaking point that transforms her. Last year, Caitlin was the spark plug, the rookie sensation who reignited fan interest and brought fresh eyes to the Wnba. This year, she's being forced to evolve into the leader everyone's been waiting for. No more emotional safety net. No more veteran presence to deflect pressure. No more sidekicks smoothing over tense moments in the locker room. It's all on her now. Every shot, every headline, every post-game quote. And maybe that's not a bad thing. Because if there's one thing we know about Caitlin Clark, it's that she's built different. She's fiery, loud, and competitive to the core. Traits that sometimes rubbed teammates the wrong way, but also fueled her greatness. With Lexie gone, she no longer has anyone to hide behind. She'll either rise into that leadership role completely, or she'll crack under the weight of it. And here's where things get even more intriguing. Lexie's exit doesn't just affect Caitlin. It sends a clear message to the entire Fever locker room. Players talk. They always do. And now, everyone knows that if someone is loyal, hardworking, and team-first as Lexie Hull can walk away, then anyone can. That realization could go one of two ways. It might light a fire under the team to finally get serious, or it could fracture them even further. Either way, one thing's for sure. Next season in Indiana won't just be about basketball. It'll be a test of heart, loyalty, and leadership. Either way, Caitlin Clark now faces the fallout head-on. She's got to communicate better, hold herself and others accountable, and finally drop that "I'll just do it myself" mindset. Because truthfully, she can't carry this entire franchise on her back anymore. The front office in Indiana already looks shaky, and the last thing they need is another season where the only viral moments are Caitlin arguing with refs while the team gets blown out by 20. And here's the tough part. The fan narrative is coming, and we all know exactly what it'll sound like the moment Lexie signs somewhere else. Social media is going to explode with hot takes like, "Nobody wants to play with Caitlin Clark." The tweets are practically writing themselves. She's going to have to block out that noise, ignore the chaos, and let her leadership speak through her play, not her replies online. But maybe that's exactly the challenge she needs. Without Lexie, there's no built-in chemistry, no easy comfort zone. She's going to have to start from scratch, build trust with new teammates, mentor rookies, and become not just the star the media loves, but the leader her teammates actually believe in. If she can pull that off, she'll silence every critic and prove she's more than just a headline or a ratings boost. But if the Fever front office doesn't step up, if they don't surround her with real help, with shooters and defenders who can take even a little of that pressure off, next season could turn into a disaster fast. Because no matter how talented one player is, you can't build a stable franchise by letting the glue players quietly walk away. So yeah, Lexie Hull leaving stinks. For Caitlin, for the fans, for everything the Fever were finally starting to build. But maybe this heartbreak is exactly what forces Caitlin Clark to evolve, to become the undeniable leader everyone's been waiting to see. Now the real question is this. Will Lexie's exit push Caitlin to finally grow into that role? Or is this just the start of something much darker for Indiana? Drop your take in the comments below, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell, because the Fever drama, my friends, is only heating up from here.